This video is sponsored by G2A. Use cashback code DORON for 3% off on Warcraft products. Hello guys, this is Doron's Movies, and today I will be talking about Desolace and why it is as it is today and what sort of evolution the zone went through. So without further ado, let's get into the lore. Ages ago, the zone was known as Mashan'She, meaning the loon of the Earth Mother in the Tauren language. It was a massive, fertile grassland, very similar to Mulgore in appearance, and was often visited by shamans from the nomadic Tauren tribes. However, everything would change some 1100 years ago. Long have the Tauren been curious about this zone and were drawn to it, especially drawn by the faint elemental whisperings, so they were convinced that the Earth Mother herself was beneath Mashan'She. They had spent decades attempting to arouse her from her slumber, and unfortunately, they had succeeded. However, much to their surprise, what they had awoken was not the Earth Mother, but instead the Earth Elemental Princess, Theradras. Theradras is the daughter of Therazane, who is one of the oldest creatures on the entire planet of Azeroth. The Elemental Lords were the first ever native race that were enslaved by the old gods, and ultimately the Titans, when they had arrived, would defeat them alongside their masters and would imprison them within the elemental plane. However, the princess avoided the fate of her mother and instead hid deep beneath the mountain of Mashan'She, where she had fallen into a long slumber. Thousands of years later, so some 1100 years before the opening of the Dark Portal, these Tauren had awakened her, and she arose and consumed all of the life energy of the entire zone in order to regenerate her weakened and degraded form. The damage was so significant that the entire zone changed from a lush grassland into a barren wasteland, now called by the Tauren Desolace. The massive loss of life was so significant that it alerted all of Azeroth, and even the Emerald Dream and the son of Cenarius Zeter had to intervene and to imprison the recently unleashed elemental. However, instead he fell in love with her and they became mates, and from their union arose the ungodly race. There was a mix between a wild god and an elemental lord, the centaur. These new creations would murder their father, would drive out the Tauren from Desolace and the surrounding zones, and would cause chaos for the next 1000 years. The centaur and the Tauren would become bitter enemies, and the Tauren were driven close to extinction due to their long-lasting wars and brutality. Now, in the recent times, the zone was just a complete wasteland with demons roaming around, and most recently the Horde and the Alliance joining in, as well as with the Satyr, the Naga, and of course the native centaur. The children of Theradras were now threatened, and she was very worried about them, so she infused them with her own power, driving them to wage war and to claim new territories outside of Desolace. However, most of the Centaur would ultimately be defeated as the Horde grew more and more powerful on Kalimdor. Ultimately, the adventurers would storm Maraudon and would kill all of the inhabitants as well as the princess Theradras. However, she would only be completely destroyed as she had returned in the Cataclysm once more to be killed for good. Now, much change would be brought to Desolace with her departure. A small faction of the Centaur assisted the Horde and would then continue to lead the rest into a new age of peace, but how true that is we don't really know, and we kinda know that it isn't true, as in Cataclysm, once again they had united under the rule of a new elemental and we had to fight them, and some remained friendly and some not so much. Following the Cataclysm, Desolace had become a lot more fertile with the new settlements of both the Horde and the Alliance, as well as with the concentrated efforts to bring back the zone into what it once was. It hasn't really been updated in the past, well, almost 10 years or so, so it is speculated to be even more fertile now, but still, it is a very harsh environment, even with the best efforts of the Cenarian Circle. Remnants of demons are scattered around, the Horde and the Alliance fight, as well as the various chaotic Centaur clans, and all the various beasts and creatures. No one knows if Desolace will ever become Mashan'She again, but at least we know that it is on the path towards the once fertile past. Thank you for watching. Check out what the oldest race on Azeroth is by clicking on the screen, and also check out the second channel, Doran's Academy, for videos on real world history and science. See you next time.